Namaste, Bhagavatam Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dandavat Pranamananda Krishna Prabhu.
Dandavat Prabhuji, Dandavat Umadev.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat.
Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 2. Text 16. Tasma unmadanataya nastaso chaya drihrude databata maya sadvi kodite paramistina. On the request of Lord Brahma, I handed over my chaste daughter to him, although he is devoid of all cleanliness and his heart is filled with nasty things. Purport. It is the duty of parents to hand over their daughters to suitable persons just befitting their family tradition in cleanliness, gentle behavior, wealth, social position, etc. Dakṣa was repentant that on the request of Brahma, who was his father, he had handed over his daughter to a person who, according to his calculation, was nasty. He was so angry that he did not acknowledge that the request was from his father. Instead, he referred to Brahma as Paramesti, the supreme teacher in the universe. Because of his temperament of gross anger, he was not even prepared to accept Brahma as his father. In other words, he accused even Brahma of being less intelligent because he had advised Dakṣa to hand over his beautiful daughter to such a nasty fellow. In anger, one forgets everything, and thus Dakṣa, in anger, not only accused the great Lord Śiva, but criticized his own father, Lord Brahma, for his not very astute advice that Dakṣa hand over his daughter to Lord Śiva. Text 17. Maitreya uvacha vinenjaivam sagirisham apratipam avastitam dakshotapa uparsprisya kriduha saptum prachakrame. The sage Maitreya continued, Thus Dakṣa, seeing Lord Śiva sitting as if against him, washed his hands and mouth and cursed him in the following words. 18. Ayam tu deva yajnana indro pendradi bhirbhava sahabagam nalabhatam devar deva kanhadama. The demigods are eligible to share in the oblations of sacrifice, but Lord Śiva, who is the lowest of all the demigods, should not have a share. Purport. Because of this curse, Śiva was deprived of his share of the oblations of Vedic sacrifices. It was due to the curse of Dakṣa. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in this connection that Lord Śiva was saved from the calamity of taking part with other demigods who were all materialistic. Lord Śiva is the greatest devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and is not fitting for him to eat or sit with materialistic persons like the demigods. Thus, the curse of Dakṣa was indirectly a blessing, for Śiva would not have to eat or sit with other demigods who were too materialistic. There is a practical example set for us by Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who used to sit on the side of a latrine to chant Hare Krishna. Many materialistic persons used to come and bother him and disturb his daily routine of chanting. So, to avoid their company, he used to sit by the side of a latrine, where materialistic persons would not go because of the filth and obnoxious smell. However, Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj was so great that he was accepted as the spiritual master of such a great personality as His Divine Grace, Om Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. The conclusion is that Lord Śiva behaved in his own way to avoid materialistic persons who might disturb him in his prosecution of devotional service. 19. Nishidhyamana sa sadasya mukayer Dakṣo giritraya vishrishaja sapam Tasmad vinishkramya vivridhamanayor Jagama koravya nijam niketanam. Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, in spite of the requests of all the members of the sacrificial assembly, Dakṣa, in great anger, cursed Lord Śiva, then left the assembly and went back to his home. Purport. Anger is so detrimental that even a great personality like Dakṣa, out of anger, left the arena where Brahma was presiding, and all the great sages and pious saintly persons were assembled. All of them requested him not to leave, but, infuriated, he left, thinking that the auspicious place was not fit for him. Puffed up by his exalted position, he thought that no one was greater than he in argument. It appears that all the members of the assembly, including Lord Brahma, requested him not to be angry and leave their company. But in spite of all these requests, he left. That is the effect of cruel anger. In Bhagavad Gita, therefore, it is advised that one who desires to make tangible advancement in spiritual consciousness must avoid three things: lust, anger, and the mode of passion. Actually, we can see that lust, anger, and passion make a man crazy, even he be as great as Dakṣa. The very name Dakṣa suggests that he was expert in all material activities. But still, because of his aversion towards such saintly persons as Śiva, he was attacked by these three enemies: anger, lust, and passion. Lord Chaitanya therefore advised that one be very careful not to offend Vaishnavas. He compared offenses toward a Vaishnav to a mad elephant. As a mad elephant can do anything horrible, so when a person offends a Vaishnava, he can perform any abominable action. Text 20. Vinaya sapyam girishanu Vigyaya sapam girisanu gagranayir Nandishvaro rosa kashaya dushita Dakṣaya sapam visha sarjadhoranam Ye chanvamodam stad avachatam dvija. Upon understanding that Lord Śiva had been cursed, Nandishvara, one of Lord Shiva's principal associates, became greatly angry. His eyes became red, and he prepared to curse Dakṣa and all the Brahmanas present there who had tolerated Dakṣa's cursing Śiva in harsh words. Purport. There is a long-standing dissension among some of the neophyte Vaishnavas and Shaivites. They are always at loggerheads. When Dakṣa cursed Lord Śiva in harsh words, some of the Brahmanas present might have enjoyed it because some Brahmanas do not very much admire Lord Śiva. This is due to their ignorance of Lord Shiva's position. Nandishvara was affected by the cursing, but he did not follow the example of Lord Śiva, who was also present there. Although Lord Śiva could also have cursed Dakṣa in a similar way, he was silent and tolerant. But Nandishvara, his follower, was not tolerant. Of course, as a follower, it was right for him not to tolerate an insult to his master, but he should not have cursed the Brahmanas who were present. The entire issue was so complicated that those who were not strong enough forgot their positions, and thus cursing and counter-cursing went on in that great assembly. In other words, the material field is so unsteady that even personalities like Nandishvar and Dakṣa and many other Brahmanas present were infected by the atmosphere of anger. Text 21. Yahetan marcham udisya bhagavatya parhityu druhi juyatyagya pratagdrishtis tatvato vimukho bhavet. Anyone who has accepted Dakṣa as the most important personality and neglected Lord Shiva because of envy is less intelligent, and because of visualizing in duality will be bereft of transcendental knowledge. Purport. The first curse by Nandishvar was that anyone supporting Dakṣa was foolishly identifying himself with the body, and therefore, because Dakṣa had no transcendental knowledge, supporting him would deprive one of transcendental knowledge. Dakṣa, Nandishvara said, identified himself with the body like other materialistic persons, and was trying to derive all kinds of facilities in relationship with the body. He had excessive attachment for the body, and in relation to the body, with wife, children, home, and other such things, which are different from the soul. Therefore, Nandishvara's curse was that anyone who supported Dakṣa would be bereft of transcendental knowledge of the soul, and thus also be deprived of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 22. Griheshu kuta dharmeshu shakto gramyashu kechaya karma tantram vitanute vedavada vipanadi. Pretentiously religious householder life in which one is attracted to material happiness and thus also attracted to all the superficial explanation of the Vedas, robs one of intelligence and attaches one to fruitive activities as all in all. Purport. Persons who identify with bodily existence are attached to the fruitive activities described in Vedic literature. For example, in the Vedas, it is said that one who observes Chaturmasya vow will attain eternal happiness in the heavenly kingdom. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that this flowery language of the Vedas mostly attracts persons who identify with the body. To them, such happiness as that of the heavenly kingdom is everything. They do not know that beyond this spiritual kingdom or kingdom of God, and they have no knowledge that one can go there. Thus, they are bereft of transcendental knowledge. Such persons are very careful in observing the rules and regulations of household life in order to be promoted in the next life to the moon or other heavenly planets. It is stated here that such persons are attached to gramya shuka, which means material happiness, without knowledge of eternal, blissful, spiritual life. 23. Buddhya para vidhyayinya vishmritatma gati pashu Shrikamaso stvaditaram Dakṣo basta mukho chirat. Dakṣa had accepted the body as all in all. Therefore, since he has forgotten the Vishnupad or Vishnu Gati and is attached to sex life only, within a short time he will have the face of a goat. 24. Vidya buddhir avidyayam karmamayam asojada samsaram tvihayechamum anusarvavamaninam. Those who have become as dull as matter by cultivating materialistic education and intelligence are nesciently involved in the fruitive activities. Such men have purposely insulted Lord Shiva. May they continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death. Purport. The three curses mentioned above are sufficient to make one as dull as stone, void of spiritual knowledge, and preoccupied with materialistic education, which is nescience. After uttering these curses, Nandishvar then cursed the Brahmanas to continue in the cycle of birth and death because of their supporting Dakṣa in blaspheming Lord Shiva. 25. Gira shrutaya pushpinya madhu gandhena bhorina matnachan mati tatmana samhoyantu haradvisha. May those who are envious of Lord Shiva, being attracted by the flowery language of the enchanting Vedic promises, and who have thus become dull, always remain attached to fruitive activities. Purport. The Vedic promises of elevation to higher planets for a better standard of materialistic life are compared to flowery language, because in flowery language there is certainly an aroma. In a flower there is certainly an aroma that does not last for a very long time. In a flower there is honey, but that honey is not eternal. Text 26. Sarva bhakshad vijavrityai drita vidyata povrata vita denendri hartama yachaka vicharantviha. These brahmanas take to education, austerity, and vows only for the purpose of maintaining the body. They shall be devoid of discrimination between what to eat and what not to eat. They will acquire money, begging from door to door, simply for the satisfaction of the body. Purport. The third curse inflicted by Nandishvar on the Brahmanas who supported Dakṣa is completely functioning in the age of Kali. The so-called Brahmanas are no longer interested in understanding the nature of the Supreme Brahman, although a Brahmana means one who has attained knowledge about Brahman. In the Vedanta Sutra also it is stated, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. This human form of life is meant for realization of the Supreme Brahman, the absolute truth. Or in other words, human life is meant for one's elevation to the post of a Brahmana. Unfortunately, the modern Brahmanas, or so-called Brahmanas, who come in originally Brahminical families, have left their own occupational duties, but they do not allow others to occupy the posts of Brahmanas. The qualifications for Brahmanas are described in the scriptures in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and all other Vedic literatures. Brahmana is not a hereditary title or position. If someone from a non-Brahmana family, for example, one born in the family of Sudras, tries to become a Brahmana by being properly qualified under the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, these so-called Brahmanas will object. Such Brahmanas, having been cursed by Nandishvar, are actually in a position where they have no discrimination between eatables and non-eatables and simply live to maintain the perishable material body and its family. Such fallen conditioned souls are not worthy to be called Brahmanas, but in Kali Yuga they claim to be Brahmanas, and if a person actually tries to attain the Brahminical qualifications, they try to hinder his progress. This is the situation in the present age. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu condemned this principle very strongly during his conversation with Ramananda Roy. He said that regardless of whether a person is born in a Brahmana family or a Sudra family, regardless of whether he is a householder or a sannyasi, if he knows the science of Krishna, he must be a spiritual master. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had so many so-called Sudra disciples like Haridas Thakur and Ramananda Roy. Even the Goswamis, who were principal students of Lord Chaitanya, were also ostracized from the Brahmana society. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by his grace, made them first-class Vaishnavas. And thus ends our reading for today. Continue from text 27 on Wednesday. Were there any comments or questions from the devotees before we close? Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
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 Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
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 Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All
Jai.
glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhaktivedanta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Navarit Dham Ki Jai, Nishanapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai, Ganga Mayi Muna Mayi Ki Jai,
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Gir
Jai.
Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Shampun
Jai.
Radha Ki Jai,
Jai.
Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Harinam Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai, Scientific
Jai.
Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai, Princeton
Jai.
Bhaktivedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya
Jai.
Saraswati Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat Ki Jai,
Jai.
Jai.
Bhagavatam Ki Jai,
Jai.
Thai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari,
Hari
Hari Bol.
Shrimati Uma Devi Vidasi Ki Jai,
Jai.
Srila Krishna Prabhu Ki Jai.
Jai.
Hari
Krishna Krishna
Bol.
Prabhu Ji ki Jai.
Jai.
Dhanyavad pranams.
Good luck, Prabhuji.
Yes. Bhagavatam is always nectar.
Yes, pure nectar.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.